Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Arita. In today's video, I'd like to chat about how asking the right questions can have a profound impact on how we navigate life. I'll also share some of my favorite questions for gaining clarity, expanding my options, challenging my assumptions, and basically thinking about better ways to do things. So why is asking the right questions so important? First of all, when we ask questions, that means that we are open to find answers. When we don't ask questions, we make statements that we assume are true. When you hear or say something stated in the affirmative, your brain doesn't have any reason to question it, unless you heard a contradicting statement that also rings true. But if you only ever hear one version of things, you're more likely to think that it's true, because you have no reason to question it. And the more you hear something repeated, the more true it'll start to sound. But when you ask yourself a question, your brain is on a quest to answer it. I imagine you've been in situations where a solution to a problem you have been facing just seems to appear out of nowhere, when you are doing something completely unrelated. That's because when you give your brain a challenge to solve, it'll continue to work on it even when you're not actively thinking about it. So if your brain does this naturally, why not use that to your benefit? Your brain enjoys a challenge, so give it good problems to focus on. Don't waste your time and brain power asking negative questions where the answer doesn't help you in any way. So let's look at some of my favorite questions I like to ask myself. Some of these questions I use to check in with myself periodically, especially when I'm feeling slightly out of sorts. And the other questions help me prioritize and figure out ways to be productive. A lot of these questions were borrowed from other places. I've collected them over the years and I may not remember the original source, but all of them have helped me in different situations. The first question is, other than my feelings, am I okay? And that's an important one because we cannot always differentiate between perceived threats and real physical threats. Our body just goes into fight or flight regardless. So this question helps you differentiate real threats from difficult emotions. And most of the time, outside of my feelings, I am okay. I'm not hurt. I have food, water, shelter. I have a job. I have friends. I have family. That helps me take stock of what I have and gives me a better perspective on what I am dealing with. Yes, feelings are important, but if feelings are the worst thing I'm having to deal with, then I know I'll be okay. The next question is, what am I feeling right now? And here I really try to pinpoint the exact emotion that I'm feeling. I think we overuse the word stressed. And sometimes it means we're hungry, sometimes it means we're tired, sometimes it means we're sad. Sometimes it means we are too busy, but we use the word stress to describe a lot of different feelings. But if I can get specific on what it is I'm feeling, is it sadness? Is it disappointment? Am I just tired? Is it exhaustion? If I can be more clear about what it is specifically that I'm feeling in the moment, then I can start thinking about ways to address it. Another good question is, what do I need right now? Am I thirsty, hungry, or tired? Do I need to walk away from my computer? Do I need to spend some time outside? Do I need time alone? Do I need sleep? You would think that your brain would automatically tell you what you need, but that's not the case. You typically just start feeling uncomfortable and you get cranky. But until you ask yourself the question, what do I need? The answer is not always apparent. So this is a really simple question, but it really helps you identify specifically what it is that you can do right now to feel better. The next question is, what am I avoiding right now? Whether I'm procrastinating on a task, or I'm avoiding someone, I'm avoiding a conversation, this typically manifests itself as a form of resistance that I can feel in my body and I can feel it in my actions. And if I'm not clear about what it is that I'm trying to avoid, I can spend a lot of energy resisting. But when I clearly identify what task I'm trying to avoid or what emotion I'm trying to escape, I can start to think about ways to minimize this resistance. Do I have to do the thing that I'm avoiding, or can I just decide that it doesn't get done? Do I need to outsource it? Do I need to schedule for some point in the future so I don't have to worry about it until that point? Or can I just take care of it now so I can move on? The next question is, what priorities am I reinforcing right now? And there's a difference between what we claim as our priorities and how we actually spend our time. And what you do day in and day out is actually a reflection of what your true priorities are. So if I say that my health is my priority, but I never make time to do the things that help me feel healthy, then it's really not a priority. It's a wish. It's something I want to make a priority, but I haven't made it a priority. So if I always answer people's calls and I do certain things day in and day out, that reflects what I value right now and what I make time for. The things I don't make time for are clearly not priorities. So to answer this question, I really look at how I have been spending my time. Is that in alignment with the things I would like to prioritize? The next question is one I learned about during the pandemic, and that is, what am I looking forward to? When the pandemic hit in 2020, there was an article that circulated around my workplace, which stated that in order to be happy, you needed something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. For me, the something to do and something to love are usually taken care of. What tends to fall behind is something to look forward to. So when I ask this question and find that I have nothing to look forward to, that becomes my next action item. I need to think about scheduling something fun. It can be something big like a trip, or it can be something relatively small, like meeting a friend for coffee or going to the movies. But when I don't have something to look forward to, my days can start to feel repetitive and tedious. The next question is, what would I tell my daughter in this situation? Or what would I tell my best friend in this situation? I find that when I'm dealing with something difficult, I can be at a loss for what to do about it. But if someone else came and asked me for advice about the same situation, I would be able to give them the next steps, or I would be able to suggest what they can do. So this question forces me to zoom out and get a better perspective on the situation at hand. And I like phrasing it in a way that I'm giving advice to someone I love and care about. And the next question is pretty similar, but when I'm dealing with something difficult, I'll ask myself, what would Rihanna do? Or anyone you admire. It can be a fictitious character, it can be a real person, it could be, what would my best self do? And I find that asking the question from that perspective reminds me of what my values are. Because when I use a name like Rihanna, it represents something to me. When I think about Rihanna, I think that she is bold, fearless, and confident. Now, I don't know her personally, and I don't know if she really is, but her name symbolizes those values to me. So by using her name in my question, it helps me reframe my situation and helps me think about how I want to approach this to reflect these values that I have. So your person can be anyone, your mom, a movie character, a celebrity, a friend. It could be you. It could be a version of you that you really admire. Just ask the question in a way that helps you think about what you value and how you would exhibit those values if you were at your best. So this next question is a way to fight the perfectionist in me. And the question is, will this matter in 3 months? Or will this matter in 2 years? So the perfectionist in me wants to do everything at 100% of my capacity. I want to do it the best way that I can. Even for the very mundane, everyday tasks, I try to do my very best because I just don't accept anything less than that. But that's a problem because not every task is important. And not everything I do will matter in 2 months or 3 weeks even, or in a year. So I should really focus on giving my best to the tasks that have a lasting impact and be okay with giving maybe 70 to 80% to tasks that won't matter in a few days. So this question really helps me prioritize and determine how much energy I should be putting into a particular activity. The next question is, what would this look like if it were easy? So not only does perfectionism make me work hard on things that don't matter, it also wants me to struggle in order to feel that what I'm doing is worthwhile. So I have a tendency to want the things that matter to be complicated. So every time I try to do something and my brain makes me think that it has to be difficult in order to be worthwhile, I'll ask myself the question, what would this look like if it were easy? The good news is that if you make something easy, you're more likely to follow through with it and keep it going. So what would it look like if it were easy? And my next favorite question is, what is the one thing I could do right now that would make everything else easier or better? And I think there's a version of this question that says, what is the one thing I could do that would make everything else unnecessary? The goal of this question is really prioritization and productivity. Because if you work on the most important thing, everything else will fall into place. A great example of that is that I know that if I go on my daily walk, everything else feels better. I'm more focused at work, I'm more pleasant around my family, I feel better. So that one activity has ripple effects into many areas of my life. And so I always prioritize a daily walk with my dog Sasha. So these are some questions that I ask myself often. And I find that just knowing those questions is not the same as actively asking yourself those questions. So when you're going through a sticky situation and you've got lots going on your mind, proactively ask yourself those questions. Write them down, say them out loud. I find that clearly stating the question helps me focus and turns off the chatter that's happening in my head. I hope these questions help you too. And if you have great suggestions for questions I should add to my toolbox, please put them in the comments below. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.